What is going on, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX podcast, and I am pumped about today's guest. We rescheduled a couple of times. I met her actually back at Wedding MBA where she was presenting, and we had a fantastic, very brief conversation right after she got off stage, and it was great to connect her. And I knew at that point that I had to have her on the podcast. So Nayri, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm pumped about the conversation we're going to have today. You are the wedding fashion expert, right? I mean, that's your Instagram presence, that's your YouTube presence. You've got a wonderful podcast, Nayri Unveiled. Is that correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. But you're really awesome on YouTube. And I know we were chatting about that right before we got on. And for anyone listening right now, if you're watching on YouTube, you've got to go out and go and check out Nayri's channel. We're going to have links to it in the description, but the advice that she gives for both couples and for pros in the wedding industry and the educational content she has is wonderful. So I can't wait to get in and unpack this and really know more about you. Your main brand and kind of where you started is a bridal boutique called Lovella. Is that correct?
Yes, Lovella Bridal. That's correct. We're in Glendale, California, which is the greater area of Los Angeles.
Awesome. So Southern California, just like me, I feel like, we, at some point we should do like an in-person podcast.
I would love that.
Totally. We have the team to do it, so we should make it happen. Well, talk to me about this. Take me through a little bit of an origin story. I'd love to hear how you got started in the wedding industry as a whole, and then really dive into Lovella and understand a bit more about how you serve the wedding and events community.
Yes, I would love to. First of all, thank you for all your kind words. That means so much. And for where I got started, it's kind of a crazy story. I feel as though I was born to do what I'm doing today. One of my earliest childhood memories is draping bath towels and designing wedding dresses on my body. And I would walk down my parents' house. They had stairs. It was 2 stories. And I'd walk down the stairs and watch the fabric trail behind me. So I was obsessed with this concept of a train and fabric and manipulating. And I do it all with bath towels, which is really, really weird. And also really cool because I just feel like everything pointed me in the direction of fashion. And then that little element of bridal, because I love learning about people's religions and cultures and traditions. And so it was just a natural thing. It's the most important article of clothing a woman ever wears. And so if I'm going to be in fashion, why not be in an element that's really creating forever memories and something that's super, super special? I was also exposed to the wedding industry from a very young age because my aunt was a florist. She had a floral boutique and did a lot of weddings and special events. And my parents are big believers in working for everything you want. So I had to have jobs. And so that was one of my jobs, going to the weddings and events and corporate events as well. And so, I was in the floral aspect of it, and then I'd see all the fashion. And so it was really a no-brainer and a natural evolution just based on all the things that I love. And I literally think I was put on this planet to do the work I do.
That's so cool hearing that. And just your drive. I mean, it's evident in the little, I called it an empire, right? Before we started, all the things that you've created for this world and the speaking stuff that you're doing and everything for our industry. I want to understand a little bit more. Was entrepreneurship something that was modeled for you growing up, or was it kind of something that you found along the way as you started these different enterprises?
Love this question so much because I actually I am first generation born in the US. My parents immigrated from Greece and Armenia. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I've seen businesses fail. I've seen businesses soar and succeed and everything in between. So I was no stranger to the risk of what entrepreneurship looks like and putting content and information out there to the world that is up for people to criticize and critique and all of that. And I would consider myself a fairly fearless person because I believe that if there's no fear in what you're doing, then you're not doing things that are big enough, right? You're not making those really big steps to move mountains in a way. And everybody always looks at me like, you wear wedding dresses all day. You sell wedding dresses all day. Like, do you even really work? Like, is that a job? And so I get a lot of, negative comments about what I do and how I do it, but I don't really care about it. Yes, of course, it gets under my skin a little bit. So I guess that does mean I care, but I don't allow it to impact the decisions that I make. And what I mean by that is I know I'm making a difference in my clients' lives, and they tell me how much of a difference I'm making for them and also for entrepreneurs, right? So I'm helping them create this forever memory for their wedding dress. I'm going to say that again because enough shook. I'm helping brides create a forever memory for their wedding dress. And then I'm also helping entrepreneurs double their business and drive more traffic to their business. So not only do I care about the consumer, but where I've really begun to branch out and start my entrepreneurial spirit is where I'm consulting and helping other wedding industry professionals. And sometimes it's even outside of the wedding industry. And that's where my heart really just jumps and soars, because I love making a difference in people's lives, and it's fun to do it on both sides of the fence.
I love it. That sounds like the coolest value sandwich, if you will, right? Like you're able to help the couples on this incredible, important, memorable day of their lives. And on the other side, you're able to help wedding pros, understand what their gifts and abilities are, how to kind of shape those and craft those so that they meet the needs of their clients. So you have it on both sides, which is, I think, really great. Talk me through the journey to Lovella and Lovella Plus. Help me understand how you got to this place. And I would actually love to push in a little bit on something that you just mentioned, is that fear and kind of some of the criticism, because I feel like, especially in the fashion world, not everyone is going to vibe specifically with your style. It's not even a negative thing. It's almost like, oh, I don't like that. Maybe some, you mentioned trains, like towel trains, right? Like, maybe as you've seen fashion trends come and go, maybe there are things that other people, or maybe different parts of the country, even if you will, won't vibe as much with what you're doing in Los Angeles, or how you're targeting it. So I would love to hear, kind of bring me through that journey, and then help me understand how you deal with maybe the feedback that you're trying to satisfy the client, but at the same time, you're getting some negative feedback. How do you keep that North Star?
I love that so much. Okay. Loaded question here. Questions.
It's like a big, I just gave you a whole cornucopia of
yes,
work on. So let me know.
I'm down for this, and I can tackle this. So here's the deal for Lovella, to answer part one of this. Lovella has evolved over the past, I would say 11 to 12 years, where I came on board full time. I was always working at Lovella. I went to UC Santa Barbara. And so I was driving back and forth on the weekends to attend trunk shows and to help brides find their dress. So I would sit in class at UC Santa Barbara and be like, I'm so bored in class, unfortunately. And I would be doing the social media. I would be on Facebook, and I created an Instagram account when Instagram wasn't used for what it was today. And people thought I was absolutely nuts for creating a business Instagram account. And look at where we are today, which is insane. So that was the evolution of it. Everything I do is to create a unique shopping experience for the consumer. So I'm always putting myself in the consumer's shoe and trying to figure out where the holes are in the marketplace. What are things that are missing? That's what led me to writing my book that I almost didn't publish. And then I was encouraged by those around me. That's another thing, is that I surround myself with people that I know are my cheerleaders, and they are going to call me out when I am trying to hit my upper limit, in terms of like, I have an upper limiting issue of, I don't want a lot of attention. You probably wouldn't think this, but I don't like being the center of attention. And I was terrified of public speaking. I'm a serious introvert. I love moments alone. Being in really large group settings exhausts me. And seeing me on social media, you wouldn't think any of these things.
Or at Wedding MBA, where you hundreds of people at,
Exactly. You wouldn't assume that that's what my internal battles are. And so I've surrounded myself with people who'd call me out, like, you wrote this book and now you're not going to publish it. What do you mean? And the book was born because I had so many brides coming into Lovella, and they were reading things on blogs, because blogging at that time was a really big deal. Blogging at that time was really popular. And so there'd be experts within the wedding industry, but not within the wedding dress industry. So they were giving out information that wasn't accurate from the point of view of a stylist. So I would have brides coming in, they were poorly educated. And then I was spending my time in appointments educating them versus finding them their dress. So that's where the education component of everything was born. So my inspiration for where Lovella goes, where Wedding Fashion Expert goes, and how we maneuver these uncharted territories, especially with new consumers on a daily basis, because let's call it what it is. Yes, of course, people get remarried, but at that point, like, you have your first wedding once, right? You're learning all the things the first time around. And then if you get remarried over and over again, that's just, you already know the process more or less, right? So it's that first time you're getting married that's so confusing and you don't know what's happening. And that was really where the education component was born. Then my book led to my YouTube channel, which led to my podcast, which then led to people saying, hey, will you public speak for us? And then everything just sort of unraveled from there and it became a domino effect. And now that's where I am today.
I love that. That perfectly kind of encapsulated everything that I was asking about.
The one thing, sorry to interrupt you, but the one thing that I missed was how Lovella Plus was born.
Yeah, I was actually just going to go there. So you read my mind. I love it.
Cool. For Lovella Plus, again, it was born from the consumer. We'd have brides coming in. Most bridal stores have dresses. Our samples are the middle of the size chart. So we have one sample of each dress, and then you are supposed to place an order for your gown. Now, the middle of the size chart really stinks for anybody who is the smallest size on the size chart, and really stinks for anybody who's over that sizing, because the dresses are going to be too small. And for the girl who's super tiny, the dress is swimming on her. How is she supposed to envision what a dress 6 times her size is supposed to look like on her body? And how is a bride supposed to envision and feel good about themselves when they can't get a dress up on their body? Like, they physically can't try a gown on. So I would have brides leaving us crying. And I looked at the team and all of us, we all had brides leaving crying, and we're not here to make you feel less than or not worthy and give you a really horrible taste in your mouth during this really special moment in your life. And so that's where Lovella Plus was born. And it's a big risk for stores to take to have multiple sizes, because having a bridal store is so expensive. We have to purchase all of our inventory, and you hope that the inventory that you buy as buyers is something that the consumer actually loves. So now here we are double investing because we care so much about our clients. And then it's just sort of evolved and grown from there. And it's been one of the best decisions we made as a team at Lovella.
That is so cool. And I love the intention that you used and kind of the train of thought that led you to developing this extension of what you do, really.
Yes.
I'm curious, as far as you starting this, we talked about like the fashion, styles for different people. Do you find yourself typically working with a certain type of client, a certain, maybe typically clients who are on the West Coast, for example, or the East Coast, or do the styles and the fashion that you present at Lovella really, cover maybe Midwest styles, maybe East Coast, West Coast, or are you kind of just more focused on one target market?
This is a fantastic question because, see, we're in LA, so we're a transplant city. I have everybody from different countries, different religions, different states. So we have such a wide variety of demographics. So it's insane because our store is over 6,000 square feet, and we have the largest selection of majority of our designers out of anyone on the West Coast. And sometimes even on the East Coast, we have brides flying in because they find a designer they love and they want to see more dresses, and we have the dresses that they want to see. So we've also become a destination that brides fly in for, drive long distances for. And that's a really big deal because when you have people investing, 5-hour drive times or 5-hour fly times to get to us, we have to really deliver every single time. So when you set the bar here, now I have to meet or exceed this every single time, which is challenging, but also exciting. And of course, sometimes, look, we're human. We do drop the ball. If I said that we didn't, I'd be lying. So to answer your question, we have a really, really large selection of dresses that caters to a large demographic of different types of brides, styles, ages, you name it. We really do try our best to curate a collection of gowns that are diverse.
Awesome. And speaking of diversity, you've worked with some incredible people. right? Like I think there's a long list that I'm not even going to try to go through, but one that really stuck out to me was Robert Herjavec's wife, Kim Johnson. You have worked with celebrities, you've worked with all sorts of different clientele. And do you find, as you are working with the different layers of clientele, that you're finding there's kind of one common thread of value that they're all looking for? Obviously, price points are different, maybe even, what they're ultimately trying to achieve in the look might be different, but is there one consistent chord that kind of ties them all together?
Your questions are so good. And I know I keep saying I love that question, but it's because I genuinely love your question so much. And this is a fantastic question because so many people look at our store and look at the list of celebrities I've dressed, and it's a true honor and a privilege. And the fact that I even get to do what I do when I wake up in the morning is absolutely insane and so freaking cool. And the common thread of all of this is that everyone wants to feel special and beautiful. We're all human, no matter how much money we make, we don't make, how much fame we have, we don't have. It's irrelevant. And working with celebrities, it's so cool because they're just like us. They're normal people with normal feelings, with family stuff, with crazy dynamics. And actually, if you think about it, even more complicated dynamics than we as the average people with privacy have, which is a privilege to have privacy, which I didn't quite realize that until I really heavily started working within, that group of that community of celebrities. And so the common thread is that we're all human and we all have the basic needs of wanting to feel beautiful and confident in this article of clothing. And we're all nervous of this really big day that has a lot of pressure on it. And yeah, it's a really big deal. And that's also why at Lovella, our dresses start at $2,000 and go up from there. And so many people are intimidated by us because they think, oh, they do all these celebrities, they do this high end, it's a luxury experience. It's a luxury experience, but we're not discriminating on your size, and we're certainly not discriminating on price points. So we have such a large selection of gowns, price points. And the biggest thing that we're trying to accomplish at Lovella is that this is your opportunity where you get to have a personal shopper and stylist do the shopping for you, and you don't pay the fee of a stylist and an expert. You get that complimentary. All you have to do is we find you the dress, you purchase the dress. And that's the really unique component of coming to Lovella versus other bridal stores in the industry, is that our stylists are truly stylists. They're going to dress you, they're going to pick the inventory and the selection for you, and they're going to knock your socks off. But also, one thing I'll add to that is it has to be a bride that values what we do. Because if you are a bargain hunter and you don't care about the expertise, we're probably not your store. But if you're a bargain hunter that likes expertise and knowledge, then we're your store because we could always sell you a sample at a great deal. So it just depends. You really have to value the experience and expertise. And if you want to be the know-it-all bride that wants to do all the shopping herself, good luck. We have a lot of dresses, and it's so hard to tell what those dresses look like on the hanger. At our store, you're coming to us for our expertise, our knowledge, our selection, and for us to be your personal stylist and shopper and treat you in a way that you've never been treated before on any other shopping experience.
You and your team are the connoisseur, and
Oh,
you come through. I love that. There's a layer of the customer experience here that I'm absolutely obsessed with. I think it allows you to differentiate yourself, to grow that brand. And I can see now, especially like working through this with you and just talking about it, why you've built the brand you have, because you are so obsessed on that client experience.
100%.
That is so cool. The other thing that I was going to highlight that I think that our listeners could really benefit from is the fact that you said it earlier on. You said, especially for that first time getting married, of course people get remarried and things like that, but that first time out of the gate, you have all the nerves, don't really know what to expect. There's a bunch of those different things. And it really makes sense to invest in something like this and an experience like this, because and work with a team like yours who's knowledgeable, because you want to have, hopefully it's just that one time, right? That's the idea.
That's the goal.
Exactly. And so if you can have such an amazing experience that is that one experience, how much better is that than trying to hack it together and ultimately maybe spending an equivalent, if not more time, right? And at the price points that you mentioned, I mean, that gives such a range for people's budgets to still find an incredible dress
Yes.
and include all of the other things.
Absolutely. Because I don't want I don't want you to feel shame. And here's the thing. This is the funny thing about pricing is that it's not about how much money you can afford. Because I have brides who probably can't afford the dress that they're buying, but it means so much to them. They're going to work extra hours. They're going to take an overtime and they're going to cover the cost. And then I have brides that can absolutely afford the price, but they don't justify the cost because they look at it as this is a gown I'm going to wear once. I'd rather spend double that money on a handbag because I could use the handbag every day. So it's interesting. It's not about how much money you can spend. It's about what you want to invest. What does the dress mean to you? Sometimes it's very valuable to the bride and other times it's not that heavily valued. And as a stylist, that's important for us to understand. Do you care about this purchase or do you not? And then that way I can better serve your needs along with the style that you're going for.
Nayri, that is brilliant. Literally every entrepreneur who's listening to this right now, or anyone in this industry or any industry really, I think could learn so much from that. Because when you were saying style, when you're talking about style and fashion, I am also hearing you really making a conscientious effort to understand the values, the value system of the person that you are working with. And when you can do that, whether you are talking about, regardless of the topic, it could even be plumbing, construction,
Yes.
you could like a barber,
Yes.
anything. If you are looking, let's even take the barber, for example, and there's even a layer of, style and design. So let's even go different. Construction. If you're just looking for somebody to just build you a house quickly so that you can live in it, that's a completely different value system, a completely different price perspective than someone who, and regardless of if they have money or not, which I think is just so brilliant that you said that, so different than someone who really wants a custom home that's going to uniquely explain and express how they feel and how they want to live. That is so powerful. So you guys, seriously, there's so many applications to what Nayri is doing. It's not just in the world of fashion. You've touched on something I think is important for all entrepreneurs, and that's a segue into what I think is what we're going to talk about today, and what's going to be really fun is just talking about entrepreneurship. You've now branched off talking about working as an educator. You were a speaker at Wedding MBA. I know you have other engagements coming up. You're also recently, I saw you're working with Wedding Pro. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I've been with them now for, I think it's been 3 years. This is my third year as a Wedding Pro educator.
Not
Yeah.
recently. I love it.
Yeah.
my information's old.
You just recently saw that we announced that this year that I'm one of the educators for this year. So you're not wrong. You saw that for this year, but this is my third year doing it.
I love it. Okay, very cool. But yeah, I want to pivot into the entrepreneurship section and your obvious passion for that, and obviously taking some of these universal principles that you've learned and now applying them to wedding businesses. When you work with entrepreneurs, people who purchase your courses, people who listen to you speak, do you find there is a pretty mixed bag of your clients in the industries, or do you find that you're primarily working with people where fashion is really at the core root of what they do?
So it depends. I work with a lot of different types of businesses, even outside of the wedding space, because it's interesting. I love to study all different types of business because perhaps there's the construction industry that you mentioned, right? That they do something in their industry that I could actually apply into bridal that no one's thought of yet. So I like to I don't want to say cross promote, but almost like mix in different things that people are doing in different industries. I stay at a lot of luxury hotels for a reason, not because I like the price tag on them, but it's more than an investment of me. So again, this is money mindset, right? Of what my dollar buys me. I stay in luxury hotels because I want to learn more about their experience. I want to learn things that they do in their hospitality industry and my stay that then I take back and I'm like, I could put that in Lovella and make our experience that much better. So in a way, it's about market research, right? So I work with a lot of different industries. I would say my main focus and majority are bridal stores and bridal store owners and their teams. But I do a lot of different things because also the marketing end of things. It's not only the customer experience, right? I do a lot of marketing. And that's one of my main roles at Lovella. I'm definitely in the marketing area and also our sales process. I wear so many different hats. It's so hard for me to explain all the details, but I'm dipping my toes in a little bit of everything because I am a firm believer in looking at the big picture and a bird's eye view versus having tunnel vision and only focusing on one area or another area. So to answer your question, I would say primarily I am specifically consulting and helping bridal stores, and many bridal stores, I'm honored and privileged to say that I've saved their business, but I'm not the one who saved it. They're the ones who applied the things that I told them to do, and they really saved their business. And that's one of the most rewarding things that I get to do in life.
That's so cool. And it really seems like you're walking the talk as well, because you're operating the store, you're helping the other store owners. So you're really living out the advice that you're giving. You're not just an armchair consultant. And the other point of this that I think is really, really neat is I was kind of digging into the stuff that you're involved with. You are an avid horseback rider. Is that correct?
I am.
What is the more correct term for that? I say horseback rider. Is there
No,
like a
equestrian, either one, they all apply. It's the same. But really quick, I want to go back for a second and take something full circle. And now I forgot my train of thought. There was
no
something
problem, because I actually was going to bring that around.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when it comes to you, just interrupt me.
Yeah.
But I see that you're involved in the equestrian sports, and you have 2 Arabian horses.
Yes.
And on your Instagram, you're riding. And so it's really cool because it seems like you're not only taking your advice there where you're, doing something that you love and something you're passionate about, but now you probably have found different ways to mix those two. When people ask you, oh, what do you do? There's probably a lot of crossover, maybe even some things that you've learned from that industry that you're applying to your business. And that's just
yes, 100%. So to take this full circle for a second. So you had mentioned really quick about I'm really walking the walk and talking the talk, right? Everything I say, I think that's really huge, right? Is if I tell a store that they have to do something, it's because I've proven it. Like I've done it, it works, and it's proven. And so I think that's a really important part of it, is that I'm their peer, right? I'm doing the things that they're doing. And to answer your question about the horses, I tell everybody that you have to live a balanced and quality life, which everyone hates the word balance and quality life. But when I was suffering with migraines, and sometimes I still do, where I lose my vision, and I went to a neurologist, and she told me you could take all these medications. First, she wanted to hire me because she thought I had an incredible work ethic. And then she told me I could take all these medications every time that I get a migraine, or I could work less, change my lifestyle, and do something that I truly have wanted to do and never made the time for. That was horses. So I actually learned how to ride as an adult. I rode when I was younger, a little bit here and there, but I rode Western, and a completely different discipline. And I transitioned into riding what I now ride is hunter pleasure. And I have 2 Arabians, 1 purebred and 1 half Arab Arabian. And I compete on them, and it's been the best thing for me to occupy my time with, that forces me to not work. I have an addiction to work because it doesn't feel like work. And that's the biggest problem, is I love what I do so much. I overwork myself, but I don't realize I'm overworking myself because I'm so passionate and excited about it. And I constantly want to be better than I was yesterday. So the horses give me that outlet where I can ride, put my phone away, and my phone's still out because it's on social media, but like I can't help myself. I got to show you all the things that I'm doing, because I also want to be an example. I want to set the example of I can work hard and I can play hard. I can go take a week and a half off from work because I've done all my work. I've built up all my content, and I can disperse that content while I'm having fun and on vacation. So I'm a firm believer in living the life that I'm preaching for people to live. And I'm living the life that I live today because I've made a lot of mistakes. And the other thing that I wanted to add is I got heavily judged for creating my online courses and for consulting stores by my loved ones, because they said, you've worked so hard to create the life you've created. Why are you going to go tell other people your secrets? And I thought that was really interesting, because I can see how people would think that those are my secrets and my ways of doing things. But I want to make a bigger impact, and I can't help every single bride, but I can help the stores who help more brides. And by that way, I'm living I'm truly living my why of making a difference in people's lives on a daily basis. And so that's why I do the consulting. And then to take it back, I know this is such a long-winded
This
answer.
is beautiful. This is perfect.
Okay, cool. And so to take it back to how the horse industry has kind of evolved and merged with my wedding space industry, is they're actually very similar, right? So it's a lot of in the wedding industry, there's a lot of small business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs. It's the same thing in the horse industry. So I see a lot of their struggles and various clients not valuing the work that they put in and not valuing the dollar. It is so similar because horses and dresses and wedding stuff is all high ticket items, right? And yes, can you cut on pricing? Absolutely, but you get what you pay for. So it's interesting watching that pattern and the parallels between the two industries. And it's really fun when someone in the horse industry ends up coming across my Instagram and they're like, wait, but that's her. Like, because I go to the horses with no makeup, no hair done. I'm super casual. Like I said, I'm an introvert. So I'm quiet. I'm not, you think I'm this like loud talking person all the time. I'm actually pretty quiet and mellow and very casual, but you wouldn't think that. So it's funny. It's really funny seeing the reaction of people when they meet me in the horse world first. And then they see my online presence, and then they see me come to a horse show maybe after work and my makeup's done. They're like, "Oh my God, you really are you." It's funny. It's a really funny dynamic.
That is so cool. You know, there was so much there to ask questions about, but the thing that I was really curious about is, as you are navigating this journey of entrepreneurship and you're noticing these parallels between the horse world and between the work that you do, not only consulting, but, the work actually that you're doing in your business, Lovella. How important is delegation to you versus doing everything yourself? And I'm asking this because you seem to me like a very competent, driven, detail-oriented, like only the best is good and it needs to be better tomorrow type of person, just in general, right? And I think that's so good and that's so powerful, but there gets to be a point, I've experienced this in my own life, there gets to be a point where to keep expanding, right? To touch all of these different people's lives and to touch these different avenues, you either start to lose it or you're forced to delegate.
Right.
Tell me about your experience with that.
That's been, honestly, I'm still working on that. That's the never ending bettering myself thing that I'm constantly working on, is asking for people for help and asking people to do things. I have a hard time. I don't even have a cleaning lady at my house, and you might think I'm a brat, but I have a hard time asking someone to come clean my home for me. That's how hands-on I am. And that's not a good use of my time. I should have a cleaning lady so I could work on other things, but I don't, because I have a really hard time asking people for help. I do everything myself. I don't let anybody touch my laundry. I clean the toilets. It's weird. It's weird. So to allow people to do things for me is very, very hard for me. Not because I don't want them to, or I'm a control freak, but I have a hard time. It's almost like, even if I'm compensating you, in my head, I'm almost inconveniencing you, even though you're getting compensated. It's a really weird thing in my head that I have to constantly work on. It's like, well, I'm actually compensating someone for this and they want to do this and this is good for them. I need to allow them the freedom to do it. I need to allow them to mess up, to learn from their mistakes. And so that's been one of the hardest things for me to learn, is to ask for help. And it's also one of the best, because if you surround yourself with a team of people who truly love why you do what you do on a daily basis, they want to be a part of it. People want to be a part of something bigger. And if I can create a community where you get to be a part of something really unique because of the team that's created it alongside me, it's not a one-man show. This is a really big, everything we do, it's a lot. So we have a really big team behind us. But it's a hard thing to learn, to ask people to do things for you, right? Especially when you're capable and pretty darn good at doing it yourself. My YouTube video content, I shoot, I edit, I put up, I do everything. I don't, it's really hard for me to delegate, but I'm working on it. So I am slowly allowing people in, and every day I'm getting better and better and better at it. So my advice to you is that I think a lot of entrepreneurs are scared to delegate because they don't want to pay for someone to do the work. But here's the beautiful thing, and this is something that I learned really early on, and I'm really grateful for it, is that if you hire the right people, not only will they cover their own pay, but they're going to help the company be more profitable. So you shouldn't be afraid to hire. And oftentimes you should hire when you don't have the money, because that's an investment. You're investing into this person to generate revenue, to cover their cost, and also make the company profitable for everyone. So there's a larger pie that everybody gets to eat from, and you get to feed more people. And then the other thing I would say about the part about being a perfectionist, yes, 100%. But I also have the phrase in my head, don't worry, be crappy. Because what happens is I get perfection paralysis, where I'm such a perfectionist that I never allow things to be birthed. Right? Like I carry it in utero for so long, to the point that it becomes expired. And then it's like, I'm giving birth to something that's no longer living because I held on to it for so long. So there's also this philosophy in my head that, yes, I want things done in a really beautiful way, but it's okay to make mistakes. And sometimes my TikTok content that's gone viral, it's not perfect. My lips are not aligned perfectly with the audio, right? I'm lip syncing, but I'm not synced. And so it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to not be 100% flawless. And that's something that I've also had to work on. I hope that answered the question.
It totally did. And you touched
Okay.
on so many really, really important things, I think. And there was so much there that I can personally relate to, and I know our audience can relate to as well. A question about that, though. You mentioned that you're an introvert. Is being, in your opinion, do you feel like as an introvert, because I think there are a lot of people, in this industry who, even though they do these jobs that are, they are not necessarily looking to be the star of the show. They're
Right.
looking to help support someone else, a wedding planner. I mean, think about all the different things. Maybe not the DJ as much, maybe, right? But like most of these different traits or trades in our industry. Do you feel like as an introvert, there is another layer of resistance there? Because if you're hiring like an executive assistant, or if you're hiring someone to do your laundry or to do your house cleaning or things like that, you have to let them into your space.
Yep.
That can be uncomfortable and a little like you might feel like you have to explain yourself, or you feel like there's like a whole other dynamic to that, rather than just hiring someone to do SEO for you.
Yep. You literally hit the nail on the head, is that I'm allowing this person into my space in a really intimate way. And that's really hard for me because I am such a private person. And even just posting the amount that I post on Instagram, like someone once told me, Nayri, the only thing you don't post is when you use the restroom. And in my head, I'm like, there's so much I do in a day that you know nothing about, because I have a way of being really present on social media, but not sharing every single detail. That doesn't mean I'm not being authentic, but like, one, I physically don't have the time to share every single detail. But I want to give you a good look at my life, because I want to live by example.
Mm-hmm.
And it's authentic to what I'm doing. But yeah, it's that element of letting people in that I am, I do have a wall up, and that wall is protection, because I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm a very loving person, and a very giving person. And so letting that person in, it's an intimate thing, but it's also me trusting someone is a really big deal with all the work that I've put in, and allowing that to happen. And I have trusted many people, and they've been great, and then something else happens where they need to move, and then I have to redo it all over again. So that's another thing, is like, I'll have someone that's absolutely incredible, and I love them, and they love me, and it's working great, but life things happen, and they need to move on to the next thing. So there are constants, like our store manager has been with me. We've been together. We've built Lovella together the last 12 years. And so we've been each other's ride or die, and we know that we're together for life. No matter what we do in life, we're together. And our assistant manager has been with us for so long. Like, our team has been with us for a very long time. So it's not like I have trust issues because I've been treated poorly by the team. That's not at all the case. It's just a very intimate thing. And I'm not just going to let anybody in to do it.
So there's so much that we could unpack, and so much we can keep going on. And in the interest of time, unfortunately, we're going to have to cut it short. And, I think we should probably have you back on the podcast at some point.
I would love that.
The question that I have in conclusion is there any encouragement that you can give someone who maybe they've been in wedding planning, or they've been in an element of fashion in our industry, or, they have a business, they're at the 8-year mark, they're at the 6-year mark, they feel like they need a refresh. maybe they need to take up horseback riding, right? They feel
Mhm.
like they're taking on more. They're not really getting the traction that they need. Is there some advice that you could give them to help them maybe push the reset button in some ways, get a little bit of perspective, and then grow? I know there's a lot, take it to the direction that you want to there, but as far as just encouragement for someone specifically in our industry as they're growing their brand.
Yes, so many things. I would say the first thing is don't do the things in your business that you don't love doing. If you are busy doing tedious tasks that you don't enjoy, that's taking you away from what your superpower truly is. So that's something that's really important to me. Our entire team, we went through and I asked every single team member, what are the things you love to do? And what are the things you don't love doing? Because there's someone on the team that is going to love doing what you don't love doing. And I want everybody showing up doing what they love. Of course, we all have to do things that are not our preferred tasks, but that's out of pure necessity, right? But if you are choosing day after day to do tasks that are taking you away from working on your business because you're so busy working in it, that's tedious, that's frustrating. You're going to go home in tears. I've been there, I've done that. Like it's not a good environment, to the point where you're questioning if you should even be doing this for a living. And I think it's safe to say we all get to a point where we question, is this worth it? Should I continue this? This is such a headache. It's so hard. It's not, and it's not, it is hard. Like it's hard. It is not easy. So I think if you're saying all the things that I'm mentioning right now to yourself, you really need to reassess the things that you're doing in your business and understand, figure out what it is about your business that made you fall in love with it, and go back to the things that you love. Because you've probably ended up in a place of doing things out of bare necessity for whatever the reason, that you're no longer in love with what you're doing, and you've lost sight of things. And so I fill my days with things that I love to do. And yes, of course, there are things that I don't love to do that I have to do anyway. That's adulting. Welcome to the real world. However, I think that it's really, really important that you're in your superpower. You're in your zone of genius. And day in and day out, you're doing things that excite you. Even if it's annoying, it still excites you. And you're excited at the end result. And the other thing I would say is we live in a world where social media numbers and, number of views you got on YouTube, number of views, number of reviews, it's all number based, right? How many stars, everything, so much number and data and all of that. The one thing I would say is don't focus so much on the numbers in terms of being discouraged. So if you are posting things on social media and you're getting really low views, that doesn't mean stop posting. That means learn, why are people not viewing this? Why are people not interested in this? Reshape it, restructure it, and try things. It's all about testing. It's about testing everything, and it's about consistency. So don't be discouraged by views and lack of your phone ringing. Try everything. When you wake up every morning, think, how am I going to make people stop scrolling? How am I going to make people stop in their tracks, pay attention to me, and value my business? What am I going to do differently? And most importantly, you have to value yourself for other people to have value in you. So you need to know your worth. And if you don't know your worth, slide into my DM and I'll help you out.
There is so much. I mean, you like that last little bit was like a power punch, and that one alone, we could spend a whole podcast talking on.
Yes.
I love this. Nayri, thank you so much for spending your time with us today on the Venue RX. And just, if you're listening to this on podcast platforms or if you're on YouTube, please go check out what Nayri's doing. All the brands, the Instagram accounts, your website. That's just, it's so helpful, and it's really refreshing and exciting hearing from you kind of what you're building and what you're doing. If there is a preferred place, you mentioned sliding in your DMs, is that kind of the best place to get a hold of you, to reach out with you directly?
Absolutely. So my Instagram handle is at Wedding Fashion Expert. We also have at Lovella Bridal and at Lovella Plus. Wedding Fashion Expert. All my links are in the bio for anything that you want to get to. A lot of people leave comments on YouTube. I respond to every single comment. It's so funny to me that people are like, "Oh my God, I didn't think you'd respond." It's like, I'm here to guide you. Of course I'm going to respond. So if you want a YouTube topic, you can leave a comment on a video or slide into my DM with a YouTube topic, anything you need. But usually YouTube and Instagram messages are the best way for me to reply. Definitely DM over a comment on Instagram, because there's so much activity on Instagram. Sometimes I miss comments on IG, if I'm being honest.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, you heard it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Nayri, thanks for spending your time with us. And we're going to have you back on.
I'd be so honored. And thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I geek out and nerd out on all of this, and your questions were fantastic. So thank you so much for asking phenomenal questions.
Thank you so much for the compliment. We will see you all in the next episode.